but not quoted exactly, so that you're like, oh, hey, oh, I see your little homage to the thing, and then you're doing this other thing that is, and also keeping, by keeping space, I try and think in terms of, I want my solo or whatever little bit that I'm playing to be as melodic as possible, and also think like a horn player, like because if I'm the lead guitarist in a band like the Blood Feud family singers, there's acoustic guitar that's laying down essentially like a chorded rhythm and accenting some things. There's the bass that is doing what it's supposed to. It's laying down this wonderful rhythm and moving the song, telling you, oh, hey, guess where we're going? We're going to this, we're going to the 4, right. And then the drums that are working with the bass player and the rhythm guitar player to just keep that. And then there's a singer singing the vocal that is this melody line. And then where am I? Well, I'm in the singer's call. I'm the response. And if the response is louder and more intricate than the call, then you're trying to be the call. You're not trying to be the response. And that's not the point of the song usually.
Right.
I mean, unless it's a song that's exactly what it needs, but generally that's not the case. So I really try and think, how would the horn section or a horn player play, or where, and that kind of stuff. I try and do that, and then just just play.
It's kind of like a Chet Baker tune, like where it's very clear. Like it always seemed like his vocal delivery was very much influenced by the kind of soft style that he played in, that kind of West Coast jazz sort of thing.
Yeah, so I love. I mean, music's. There's so many cool things, and I don't know. I get to play with a couple of my favorite songwriters. So
that totally makes sense. That Oxborough likes playing with you, because every time I talk to him about music, he always points to a solo that contributes to the overall song.
And I mean, I'm a guitar player too, so like I can be too loud and play too many notes and do all of those things.
Yeah.
I'm not well. Plus, I'm limited by my skill set. I'm a decent player, but I'm not a shredder by any means.
Are you completely self-taught? Did you have any formal lessons or music theory or anything like that?
I have taken some music theory stuff,
okay.
Of which I've forgotten probably most of it. So it's essentially self-taught. I haven't taken specifically lessons, but one of the instruments that I recently started playing is pedal steel, and so one of the best pedal steel players I know, who happens to be Grammy nominated for that matter, is John Rauhaus.
Oh yeah,
who lives here in the Valley, and he's
fucking great player.
He's a really nice guy, and so he encouraged me because I played slide. He was like, "Dude, you need to start playing pedal steel. You could do it. It's not that you could do it." And I'm like, "Dude, there's 10 strings and pedals and knee levers and all this kind of stuff." He's like, "Oh no, it's not that big deal." And then and so the seed was planted and whatever. But then I finally, he was like, "Oh, there's a pedal steel. There's a couple of them over at the pawn shop at blah 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 on Central." And I was like, "Okay." So I went over there, and serendipity happened, and I ended up with a little bit of extra cash that I could put down on it. And it's so the pedal steel I have is a 78, I think, might be the. I'm not positive on the model year, but it's late 70s Showbud Lloyd Green model. So it's an SD10. So it's a double chassis, so a double neck chassis, because you see steel players have two necks.
Yes.
And so it's a double chassis, but with a single neck, which Lloyd Green, who actually is still alive. That's the other crazy thing is pedal steel is such kind of a weird new instrument that some of the
masters are still around.
are I mean, they're right at like Bud Isaacs recently died a while back, but like Lloyd Green's still around, and then so I started playing that, but then I'm also kind of I really like weird things, so I started listening, and I listened to personally I listen to a lot of post rock stuff.
Okay.
Just because because I'm not a songwriter I'm not a lyricist at all. I don't write lyrics. If I did, they would sound like mildly cranky, teeny bopper complaining.
Sure.
And so plus I play with people who write amazing lyrics. So I'm like, yeah, I just won't write lyrics. So I listen to a lot of post-rock because it's instrumental, majority of it. Or it's like Sigur Rós, where it's like, yeah, there's a vocal, but that might as well just be another instrument.
Right.
So I listen to that, and Daniel Lanois does this
Great
kind
stuff.
of crazy stuff and did stuff with Eno and all that kind of stuff. So it's and he plays pedal steel in a lot of that. And so I started doing some weird kind of post-rocky ambient pedal steel stuff. So I have some of that. At some point, I'll start playing that out if I can put it together.
That'd be cool.
I
got to hear that.
I got a few people I could wrangle into playing with me.
That'd be really cool.
So that would be fun. I've done one gig as that.
Yeah.
Which was because being in the digital age that we are, as soon as you have a good idea, you're like, oh, what should the band name be? Okay, I'm going to make a Facebook page for that. So I have a Facebook page for that, which is Candy Corn Vampires.
Okay.
Which is it's a crazy name. But it suits, it's basically that it's an ambient version of the Americana Noir. It's very dark and just like, it's more ambient music.
Gotcha.
So I do that. But I also get to play a little bit of the kind of cliche pedal steel if Blood Feud Family Singers is playing like 3 sets, I'll drag the steel out because it weighs 60 pounds in the case, so it's like
it's got to be worth your while.
Yeah, it's got to be worth my while. And so we'll rehearse a few songs, and like when we did our album release, I played pedal steel on probably three or 4 songs, and it was just like. Plus we had Megan Neff that sat in with us.
Yeah.
And oh my gosh, like when you play pedal steel and play with a fiddle player that is amazing.
Yeah.
It makes everything you play sound a million times better, and you don't have to play as much because they're all the stuff you're like, oh, I should really, they're doing all of that and better than you ever could. So it's like, yay. Well, it's like playing with Oxborough.
Yeah.
Both bands I play with him. I love it because one, he writes great songs, but also he's a great bass player. He is an awesome rhythm section to play against as a lead player because no matter what, it's like, oh wow, it makes my job so much easier because I don't have to worry about any of that. And where he goes is always kind of like, oh, that was interesting, and and it worked really well with what I did. Sweet. So
it makes total sense too that Rajas would encourage you to do it. He's such a sweet guy, and like I will go hear him play any chance I get, whether it's with like Sun Punchers or even Eagle Case and Sun Punchers is a great fucking band anyway. So
exactly.
So you mentioned briefly in passing, so I feel like we should bring it back around to that real quick. You mentioned a 10-day tour, which it's not going to be long before you head out on that sort of jag. You're off in July, right? To play some dates in
New Mexico and Colorado, and I think one Utah date. The last date is in St. George.
Yeah.
So we're getting ready to do that. That will be I think it's the end of July, basically, like the 19th, and 2 weekends, which gives you a week in the middle to fill in with fun dates and stuff. Yeah, it's I'm excited about it. We haven't been out on tour for a while, and we haven't been on tour at all with any of the new players. So we have Greg that plays acoustic guitar and sings, and kind of takes the slot that John vacated. Right. And he does great. He's a great player. Nice guy too. Like that's the other thing. Like if you got to drive around across the country with people, that there's somebody that you don't hate is really optimum. If they can play okay, like if their playing is like, oh, the great player, but they're kind of a jerk, or the one that doesn't play quite as good but is really awesome, I'll take the awesome anytime. And Greg, to his credit, is both. He's a great player and a great guy. And then Rudy, who is also from Tucson, because Greg is from Tucson, is an amazing banjo player. Like he plays, his warm-ups are like he plays Bach and stuff like that. And I'm just always blown away. And for me, as the slide guitar player, and a slide guitar player that the tuning that I tune my guitar to is essentially the exact same tuning as what he plays. It's an open G tuning, because typical banjo is open G. But he's playing all these really high and twangy bits and pieces that I always kind of listened, like I always in my head, I'm always playing like way more than I'm actually physically playing, because I hear what I really want to do here and this other part and that kind of this, that, and the other, but I can never articulate all of that because I'm only one instrument. And so I just choose what I want to and focus on that. And in Square's music especially, I'm kind of like the icing. I get to play a lot of like the little bits in between, like the little turnaround, like the little shave and haircut 2 bits kind of bit that brings you back around to the thing in between when somebody does a vocal bit. And usually I play a lot of that as very like lower note stuff. And Rudy is as intuitive a player and fun to play with, because like I'm listening to what he's doing and I'm like, oh yeah. And so like if you ever get to see us play and it's just like really going really well, you can watch Rudy and I kind of looking at each other like, oh hey, how about this? Oh hey, how about this? And if you listen to just us play, it's like we're just trading back and forth like this little, oh yeah, I can do the ding 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 ding, and he's like ding 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 ding. That's awesome. You know, it's just like we get to trade around a little bit, and it's super fun because, you know, he's a great player.
Well, I went and got to hear you guys at the live recording.
Oh.
Yeah, and you guys were great as always. Do you have any idea when that's hitting?
You know, I don't. We'll have to see what's going on with mixing it and that kind of stuff. So, yeah. And see, and with it being a live recording, we're like, okay, which songs are we going to choose? Which ones did we not screw up enough that we don't want to have to release that?
Sure.
Because that's one of the things I love about live. You know, you jump in and you just go.
Yeah.
Well, and at that same live recording, I played one song with Decker. Yeah, I played slide guitar on that, and that was actually that was hilarious, because it was like I got to do like the kind of rock star kind of weird thing where I like, I'm the featured performer in this one song. And I like walk through the crowd with my guitar, stand up there, put my amp over, just turn it up way louder than it should be, plug into it, and then kick the song off and it goes, and I play this awesome solo, and then I unplug and walk away. And it's like literally like it's the total like mic drop moment. Like, and I'm like, thank you, good night.
Arm raised, yeah.
And I was like,
Cleveland, you know.
I was like, that's kind of, I like doing that. That's
pretty cool.
I don't have to worry about anything. I just do.
That is pretty cool.
Yeah, it was fun, and Brandon's a great guy. So
now, I do have maybe a couple of hack questions, but I'm going to ask anyway because I'm curious. But like, what's the oddest piece that somebody has commissioned from you?
Ooh, let's see.
Because I've seen some of the pictures from your Instagram feed, which I'll be sure to put that up when I post this. But like some of them, it's just like it's works of art. You kind of like see, this stuff in progress.
Well, and it depends. So I am kind of. I don't want to say no. I'm known for being the guy to go to if you have an odd idea. I'm the guy to come to. Complete instruments, for commissioned complete instruments, I've only done a few. Okay. Just because they take a long time. One that is a really interesting instrument that the only way you could actually get it is to have a luthier make it for you, and that's why they came to me. Was I built a bass for Chuck from Chuck Morris from he's the bass player in Jared in the Mill.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
And so he goes, yeah. So I got this idea, and I want a bass, and he rattled off like a bunch of different specifications as far as like the type of body that it shape. The way the neck attachment was, how the neck, how the tuners were at the end of the neck, the type of pickup style that it was, and all these different things. And I'm like, oh yeah, that doesn't exist. He's like, exactly. That's why so I built him a bass, and it's this crazy massive thing. I'm also in process. I should say in process. We're more in the design process. I actually really need to sit down and sketch out a bunch of things, like 5 or 6 different ways it could go. But Jess Pruitt, who's a local player, plays in pretty much everybody's projects.